Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy you could all join us today. We have with us Anna Yackel, Membership Coordinator here at IHLS. And this is Members Matter, and the topic is intergovernmental agreements this morning. And we have with us Jill Shart, who is the director at the Edwardsville Public Library, and she's been there 10 years. And when I heard about this effort, I was really intrigued because she's providing, through an intergovernmental agreement, she's providing cards to students of the Edwardsville School District. And she's also partnered with several other area libraries to make this all happen. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jill and let her tell you about her experience. We're looking forward to it. If you have any questions, you can put them in chat. And, we'll also have a question and answer segment where, you could probably unmute yourself during that as well. Okay, Jill, take it away.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. So I am by no means an expert on intergovernmental agreements, but Anna thought it would be helpful if I shared my experience with you and tell you a little bit about what we looked into and how we went about this agreement. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, Anna, is that right? Is the issue we had before okay?
Excellent.
Okay, good. All right, so this has nothing to do with anything other than I love the building and the history here of the Carnegie Library. You can see the original structure on the bottom there, and the additions that went on the building. Anyway, okay, so here we go. Now, this map is showing you it's a lot going on, obviously, but the green area is School District 7. And you can see the border is that kind of bright bluish green border. You can see all the libraries that are involved here. You see Warden, see Bethalto, Edwardsville, Glen Carbon, Wood River. There's Roxana area, Maryville. So you can't see the Maryville down here, but you can see there's a lot of portions of library areas that fall into the school district, and then the area that is that greenish blue, that teal color, that's all unincorporated. So that whole area does not pay any library tax. So we typically have a lot of people coming into our libraries asking who live in those areas, asking how to get a library card. And of course, we all know it's very confusing to people when they have, for example, an Edwardsville street address, yet they don't live in the city limits of Edwardsville, so they don't pay library tax, and then we have to explain to them the situation about getting a library card. That's something that most libraries have to deal with, some more than others. But that is how we first started, looking at this. I think like any other public library, we're always trying to look at, what we can do to benefit the kids, and what can we especially do to benefit the kids who might have barriers to access. And I know a lot of the things that we have done here. I've been here for 10 years, but I've been library director for 5 years. I have just copied a lot of things that other people have done that have been great ideas. Like, for example, the 6 Mile I saw was putting books on the school buses. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. So, we started that as well, the Stories on the Move initiative before COVID. And it just got restarted again now after COVID, right? Trying to put books on buses, modeling reading as fun behavior for kids, giving them access. So the next step in that access providing that access would be, how do we get all the kids to have public library cards? And I really feel like a lot of the things that I've ended up accomplishing, with others while I've been here, has come kind of organically from talking to people and going to meetings, organizations, trying to be involved in community events. And we had done some remodeling in 2021 and had a kind of a big party here for us. It was a big party. We had an open house and invited everyone we could think of. We invited Dr. Shelton, the superintendent of District 7, the school board members. And right as things were kind of quieting down here, I was talking to Dr. Shelton and I think 2 of the school board members, and we were just kind of like saying, oh, I wish we could do this, or wish we could do that. And we started talking about that whole situation of not all the kids having access to libraries. So that was how we started. And I have to admit, at the beginning, I said, well, it's a nice to have, but I just don't see how it could be possible, how we could accomplish that, knowing all of the libraries that are involved and understanding that, someone would have to be paying for it. I don't know. I think there are different feelings about this, but for example, the Cards for Kids legislation. I personally think that it's a wonderful initiative. It's a great idea, but I do think that the state should be reimbursing the libraries, a fee for that, because, taxpayers are paying for their library services, and people who don't pay library tax, somehow that needs to be covered, right? When we talk about that whole question of being equitable. So anyway, we were talking about all that, and I wasn't that hopeful to begin with, but I thought, well, if they're willing to pay something, and if I can talk to the other libraries involved and we could gather some momentum, maybe it would be possible. So at that point, I think, now I think Christy and Lindsay were both going to be on today. I'm not sure about Gary and Mary. I'm not sure if all the library directors are on, but they will also be able to answer some of your questions about, their experience. But first, because Glen Carbon, Edwardsville, and Warden are the ones that I typically think of when I think just right off the top of my head of students in District 7. So I asked Christy and Gary if we could get together and just kind of have a conversation about it and see, what do you think about it? What do you think your board would say? What would be your concerns? So that's how we started the process. Sorry, take a drink here. So the next step then for me was trying to understand, well, what does Illinois law say about this situation? I'm hoping that most of you probably have already read this. These FAQs I think are really helpful. I love how they've taken the law and just kind of made it easy, questions and answers, very, very straightforward and easy to understand. So I put the link up here in case anyone hasn't seen the FAQs about non-resident services, and then just showed you here. May a public library issue non-resident cards at no charge to all students at a school district? And then it just tells you very clearly, issuing cards to students who are non-residents for public library service area and anything other than an individual basis requires a contract or an IGA between the public library and the school district. And the main 2 important components of that agreement are, it must include the principle of equity of services and the assumption of financial responsibility by the school district. So, and of course, that assumption of financial responsibility by the school district is only covering that non-resident area. So that's the first place that I went to try to kind of get an understanding. And another good resource that I found here is Rails has, I'm going to show you, like, Rails has this page here. It talks about intergovernmental agreements for public library service. It has some examples and it, goes over some of the points to consider. When I was reading that, the first paragraph is pretty much the same as the previous slide, except that it also adds, that the principle of equity of cost of services. So who's paying what, or how is the cost of the non-resident card being covered? How is the library being made whole for this? That may be determined between the boards of the agencies entering into the agreement. So they don't have any set requirements for that, like they do for the way you calculate your non-resident fees, right? You have a couple options, but for this, it's pretty much saying this may be determined between the boards of the agencies, that the Illinois State Library does not require a specific formula to determine the cost. Cost of services may even be represented by in-kind services in lieu of funds, if both agencies deem this appropriate. Okay, so I was reading through this and, trying to figure out, well, how can we structure this that is both, fair to the taxpayers, but also providing that access to the libraries. Again, that's just the link there. Okay, so now the next two slides are talking about our specific IGA. There are quite a few examples out there. So again, this IGA is only for the non-resident area. This is not addressing all of the points that had to be discussed between all the public libraries involved. We're going to get to that in a few minutes, but right now, this is just the IGA covering the non-resident area. Now, it's also interesting because Dr. Shelton, he had originally told me that he estimated about 900 students of District 7. There were about 7,500 students enrolled in District 7. He had estimated about 900 of those were in that unincorporated area. And actually turned out to be much higher than that. It's, I believe it's 1,600 something. It's 22% of the students of District 7 live on a parcel that does not pay library tax, so do not have public library access automatically based on where they live. So that was really interesting. But when I was talking to the board, we were trying to figure out, well, what makes sense for us and what is our intention here? And I'm an accountant, so for me, I'm always thinking of that fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer and trying to balance the fiduciary responsibility with providing the most services that that we can. So what we decided to do is we do issue non-resident cards. We use the tax-based method, so we are taking just our our rate off our tax bill, multiplying it times the net taxable value for anybody who wants a non-resident card. We do occasionally have people coming in, and when we do that calculation, it might be less than $25 a year. I mean, it happens occasionally. So we do have a minimum on our non-resident annual fee of $25. So we decided we were going to take that $25 minimum non-resident fee that we charged and divide it by the average household size in Edwardsville from the census data. And that was, let's see, 2.52. So it took $25 divided by average household size in Edwardsville, 2.52. It came up with a fee of $9.92 per non-resident card issued to students. We also know, unfortunately, that a large percentage of these cards may not be used. We didn't want to charge the school district, right, same tax base. We didn't want to double tax people either. So what we thought was more fair would be to say, we're only going to bill you at the end of the year for the non-resident cards that are used. Of course, that adds a level of complexity to the calculation and the burden on Edwardsville to calculate that. But we also discussed the fact that this is the first year And given some of the electronic resources, I know we can get usage on some of them, but I'm not quite sure yet about Libby. So we had discussed the fact that, you know, it would also be the libraries taking a look at their electronic usage and seeing if they were noticing big increases, and that we would maybe have to renegotiate that. So in return, the school district will also allow any of the libraries involved in the agreement to use their buildings, if they're available, for events. So I don't know if you've seen it, but I mean, EHS has a beautiful auditorium. They also have a great room at Liberty Middle School, which is a nice auditorium for events. And, you know, I mean, we don't have things that need that much space very often, but, you know, we did have an inclusion, diversity, equity, and awareness event last year where we had 3 speakers from SIUE, where that would have been nice. We also are partnering with SIUE next year, and Ada Limon is coming to Edwardsville next year. So we may be trying to get the EHS auditorium for her as an example. And I hope that the other libraries too may do that. It would also be nice if we could figure out things we could all do together and have some kind of big events in these facilities. So that's how we came up with the amount that District 7. This is just a paragraph included in the IGA. I didn't want to like put the whole IGA in here, but if anybody wants to see ours, I'd be happy to send it to them. So that's the principle of equity of cost of services. That's how we calculated our fee. And again, I'm still not 100% sure how I'm getting that usage. We have maintained reading history checked on all of the District 7 cards, and that will cover the physical items. I know it's available, obviously, then also for Cloud Library. Hoopla is also available. And like I said, Libby is still unknown at this point. I haven't looked into it. Okay, financial responsibility. That was also part of the law, right? That the school district has to accept responsibility for lost items. Again, it's only the non-residents. So any loss that we incur, Edwardsville Public Library incurs on a non-resident card from a student in District 7, we are to go about our normal methods of recovery. And if we're not able to get the item back or the cost of that item back, District 7 would be liable for that. So these are the two, I think, most important things that you'd have to decide on your specific IGA if you were interested in doing the same thing as to, you know, how you would cover these 2 items. Okay, so now when it came to the point of trying to work together, you know, with all the libraries, you know, the biggest thing here was just trying to explain, well, why do we need to do this? For example, like I'm not going to pick on any specific library, but just for example, Bethalto may say, well, why do I need to do this and have an exception to our procedure when all of those students would already be able to get a public library card here, right? So if you think about the 7,400 students in District 7, we are parceling them out. I shouldn't have used that word. We are breaking them out. We are looking at where they all live. If they live on a parcel that pays library tax to any of the 7 libraries involved, they would get a card registered at that public library. And if they're a non-resident, they would be registered as a non-resident to Edwardsville. You know, so Bethalto would be in the position of saying, well, you know, why do we need to do this? Because the students are already eligible for a card based on where they live. It's a departure from our procedure. I believe there were 2 of the libraries. I think it was for sure Wood River and Bethalto, might have been some others. You know, they had a valid concern, right? Because they require parents or guardians to have a public library card before they allow the minor to have a card. And I don't know if they link them, but I assume that they do, right? To just make sure that there's that liability there, that coverage. So we talked about it, and I wanted to show you. So let's see where I have this here. I wanted to show you. Okay, this is an example. So I'm using my own son here. This is my own family. This is an example. So saying that, right, we're trying to give access, right? Explaining the fact that yes, they are eligible for a library card at your library anyway, based on where they live. But we know that we have students who aren't able to get to the library because they don't have anyone to take them, or people are too busy, or whatever the situation might be. And also the students who can never physically get to the library would at least have access to the electronic resources just from their student ID. One of the questions that came up in this whole conversation was, well, what about those students who already have a public library card? And I just thought it would be too much work, to kind of go through and make these exceptions. So we just went forward by saying every student in District 7 is getting a public library card. And even if they already have one, this is going to have a different patron code. So this is my family here. You can see 2 entries for Lucas Shart, and that's my son who's still in school. He has a library card registered at Edwardsville. He also has a District 7 card. So the District 7 cards all have that prefix of D7 LIB and then their student ID number. And you can see, first of all, that makes it stand out, but also the fact that look how the address is all pushed together, right? That's how the data was uploaded. And we just decided we weren't going to go through and do the manual manipulation when that works just fine. It's just another indicator that, hey, this is a different kind of card. And again, the Dina helped us. Dina was really great, did a lot of work for us. And she told us right away that the patron code community was not used by any of the participating libraries. So that would be a good option. And we all agreed to use that patron code community. So that's a way that we can say, oh, okay, this is another way we can identify this card as a District 7 card. So again, we did not go through and pull out duplicates. If Lucas already has a card, now he has 2. And that's just, we haven't had any complaints from parents or anything. I'm assuming in those cases that the District 7 card just probably wouldn't be used. And no, my middle name does not start with a Z. I changed it to Z because of the fact that it drives me crazy when I pick up my hold and there's someone else that has SCHJC. So I put a Z in there just to stand out for library holds. Okay, back to this. Another concern that we had collectively as a group, right, was well, what about the loss, right? That IGA is covering the loss on those non-resident students, but what about Bethalto, Wood River, Warden? What about their risk of loss for physical items? The school doesn't currently have any obligation to reimburse them. So, we discussed it in the fact that, well, Edwardsville and Glen Carbon, we're in the same boat, right? These students are technically eligible for a card anyway, based on where they live. And, no one gives us any certainty about getting any of our materials back. So at that point, we decided to limit it to 5 physical items for the first year, just to kind of, reduce the risk of loss. And we'll evaluate after this year. I also talked to Dr. Shelton and, relayed that concern. So he's aware that if there is a bigger loss than what some of the other libraries can tolerate, then we'd have to revisit that subject, just a test year. So the libraries would have preferred that students had to, or guardians would have to opt in to get the card. But we all know if there's a step involved, right, people are just likely to not do it at all. So District 7 talked to their attorney about, how we could go about this. And I was going to show you what was sent to parents and guardians here. Okay, so District 7 spoke with their attorney, and they felt that they were covered. The point that they were trying to figure out was, are they allowed to distribute this personal information to the libraries? And that's how they phrased it. This is what was sent to District 7 guardians, telling them that their information, the student information, would be used and sent to the library system. And if they did not want the library card, if they did not want their information to be provided to the library system, they had to complete this opt-out form. So the libraries agreed that this route would be fine, coupled with the fact that we'd reevaluate after the first year and, and see what kind of loss they have, and see if there were any issues with parents and guardians. So this is what was sent out, and we did have 22 guardians opt their children out. So 22 students out of 7,400 is not bad. But I also think that if we would have required an opt-in, we would have not had great turnout either. So I think this was a good idea to do the opt-out form. The next thing, to make it as user-friendly as possible, I really wanted to be able to use the school-issued student ID as the library card. So we originally tried to just have the D7 prefix. Dina tried that first, but because I guess there's software that a lot of the schools use to generate their student IDs, there were duplicates because of the large number of schools that are part of Illinois Heartland. So with the D7 as the prefix and then the student ID together as the barcode, there were too many duplicates. So then we decided to use the D7 LIB as a prefix. So what happens now is when students come in here to check out physical material, the staff have to manually type in D7 LIB, and then they scan their barcode on the student ID, and it should bring up their account. And the students were also notified that that's how they would have to enter their barcode into any electronic resources that they're trying to use for the library. Another thing that came up was as far as the PIN goes. So we used, again, just to keep it simple, we use the last 4 digits of the student ID as the PIN. And there were some students, not that many, who had a 3-digit student ID. So the process we went through there was just to add a 0 first. Then, of course, well, what information should we load into Polaris? Now, this was the more challenging part of the project. When you have 7,400 students and you have a non-resident area plus, the 6 or 7 public libraries involved, how do you break all of that data down into which library they would be assigned to? And what I ended up doing is I contacted Madison County, and they sent me an Excel file that had a list of all the parcels that pay District 7 school tax. Then they sent me separate files for each public library involved of all the parcels that pay library tax to that specific library. So that was all in the same format. Then I had a big master file from the school district that had all of the students, all the student information, and basically it was their name, their birth date, their grade. It has their parent guardian information, their address. So the real tricky part for me was the format of the data, trying to get the data format to line up so that I could just do VLOOKUPs to kind of organize all of that, if that makes any sense, right? Trying to VLOOKUP names, addresses, trying to figure out the best way to do that. And of course, if anybody is trying to do something like that, I'll also be, happy to help with any of that. I learned a lot. by going through this, and it was also a little bit challenging and took some time, but it was very interesting. So then we took all of that information, and I ended up having a separate tab for each public library, and then for Dina to load into Polaris. And it basically just had, we have the patron code, community, we have their student ID, and some of the different fields that we used was in the driver's license field, we put the name of their school, and the homeroom field has their grade level. So the parent guardian name is entered in the registration in the parent guardian field, and also the contact email for the student is the parent or guardian email. We have had some high schoolers coming in here and asking for the email to be changed to their email so they can be notified of their holds, and we have been changing that then as requested. Another thing that we wanted to make sure we could do was to track which of these community cards were non-resident, right? Because I need to track that usage. So Dina recommended in the others field, and that's on that second tab of registration as well, underneath the parent guardian. We have the others field, and it says EDWP NR, so we're able to get the stats on those accounts. I think I covered all of those things. So this is where we ended up. Basically, what I have is a spreadsheet, and this is like the cover sheet, the summary, and then there is a tab for each thing you see listed here. Bethalto, Edwardsville, Glen Carbon, Maryville, Wood River, Warden, and then Edwardsville non-residents. Roxana is also included in here. There are parcels that overlap, but there are just no students at District 7 right now, so that's just something that we need to be aware of going forward. But here we are. I think this is so interesting. Like I said, the most exciting part to me was non-resident through Edwardsville. So 1,641 cards were issued. So 22.5% of the the 7,300 students at District 7 who were not eligible for a library card based on where they live now have access to the public library. So I also have to admit that I got to the very end of this and all of a sudden had a little bit of a heart attack because I did not realize that anybody in Maryville with a Maryville street address paid District 7 tax. I mean, Maryville actually just fell off my radar completely. I didn't even know. I had to call them at the very last minute and pretty much beg them to join in the project with us. And I don't know if you can see it really, but that second column there is street address. So if you think about it, there are 5 students who have a Glen Carbon street address, and that parcel also pays tax to the Maryville Library and District 7. That's just fascinating to me. But yeah, that's what you find, I guess, when you comb through the data. So that's a summary of the students, and you can see the third column there. The students that opted out were in Edwardsville and Glen Carbon, and we ended up issuing 7,287 new cards. This is a lot for one slide. I just wanted you to have an example. So this is what the school district sent out to all of the families, so that everyone is aware of how this works. They did, I don't know about the high school. I don't think the high school, but in the elementary schools, they issued a second ID to the families so that they would have one at home to use, because I think for most of the elementary schools, they encourage the kids to leave their ID at school so it doesn't get lost. But most of them should have another card at home to use as a library card. And this is, also the documentation that hopefully they can hold on to as far as like, well, what is my barcode? How do I get my ID to work if I want to use electronic resources? That was sent out. So moving forward, I mean, I think that this is a good start, but I know there are more things that we could do together. I'm hopeful that there'll be some grants or some other ways that we can level out the electronic resources. It would be more helpful if we all had exactly the same thing so that the teachers and the administrators could build that into their curriculum. Another thing, like I said before, was just trying to figure out how to make this the most effective, right? How do we reach the most people? And one small thing that we've started to do is trying to reach out to the teachers. So Ms. Lane from EHS, she teaches literature and I think some speech classes to juniors and seniors. And so she's brought in 3 or 4 of her classes already. And she brings them in for an hour. It's extra credit for the kids, like it's at 6 in the evening. And we talk to them. I talk to them about, Andrew Carnegie, who I think is fascinating, right? I mean, he's a wonderful man and a cruel man, but the legacy that he left and, what we can learn from that and what is the role of the public library in the community. And, why is it a better choice to use an established database from a public library versus just Googling something? Like, how do you vet your information? So we talked to them about that, and a lot of them have fun here and are very interested. One fun story we had from that you might have seen on our Facebook or Instagram, but one of the students that was here saw the 3D printer and she had an idea. She was going to be in a competition. She wants to be an OBGYN. She was in a competition for a medical project and she 3D printed here a dilation rings and a uterus with this really cool 2-tone filament. And she took that and she went to finals for her competition in Texas. So that was fun. And it's a great way to highlight, that learning is fun and the library has great things that you can use. Another thing that would be fun to look at going forward, Dr. Sheldon also has some interest in, I mentioned a bookmobile. He had some interest in trying to help us fund something like that. That would be so much fun to have for all of the libraries to share the District 7 libraries in our communities and do some fun events with. Also, want to make sure that we can use that space that District 7 is now offering. So it's a good thing to keep in mind that, well, maybe when we're having a big event, we can all work on it together and figure out ways to continue to build on the partnership. Okay, it's just another picture of the library because
Oh, it's beautiful.
So that's all I have to say, unless anybody has questions.
I would just like to make 4 off-the-cuff comments here. First of all, get my video back here so you can see me. I think it was really a great idea that you came up with the concept of not taxing, double taxing people, because I know when my daughter was in school, I felt like I was paying for some things 3 times over, so I appreciate that you took that into consideration when you came up with the dollar equivalent of what these students would be costing, the taxpayers. And I also love the opt-in out form that you send home to the parents. I've never seen that, but I think that's an excellent idea. And I love the way you worked with all of the other libraries in the community that were affected by this. And I really think it's very cool that you spoke to the group about Andrew Carnegie. He's kind of like, we always throw him up as this icon of virtue and goodness because he funded libraries, but really, yeah, he did that out of a guilty conscience, I think. But anyway, it's nice that you address that with them and really make them I was just, when our previous conversation, we were talking about how people don't really understand libraries and what we're about. So I think that, you having that discussion with them and talking about, what his mission and vision was when he funded libraries it helps to demystify what we do. And and shed more light on the real value of what we create and how hopefully these students having these cards will be very helpful. I did see we do have a question in the chat from Carol. Let's see if I can bring that up. And she wants to know if you wouldn't mind, who is responsible to pay for lost or damaged items? And are cards only good during school year?
Right, so we would go about our normal collection process for the non-resident cards. And if we don't have like a timeline set, but if we weren't able to get the material back or have the patron pay, then District 7 would be responsible. That is only for one of the non-resident cards. You know, if an Edwardsville resident or someone who pays Bethalto library tax, if they don't return something to the libraries, the school district is not responsible. And that's why we limited it to 5 and kind of put that, you know, kind of a test year to see how things go. Second part of the question, yes. So what we did was, I think we said we got a late start this year, so that opt-out process is going to be part of registration from now on. But the card would then go through the new school year. So I think the term on this one ends in July, but going forward, it would probably have to be August to August. The intention is that it's a one-year card to bridge the gap in the school year as well.
That's great. Now, do you have, do you use a collection agency? I mean, if these people were really hesitant to pay and, you know, I don't know whether the school district would be assertive in going after them, you know, it's like, you know, and people move all the time and, you know, various things. How aggressively are you going to go after the cost of lost items is basically one question.
We're going to follow our normal procedure, right? So, I mean, for us, it's 30 days after 30 days after it's due. When it's late, it's, you know, it's billed, and then 30 days after it goes to collections. But I mean, we use unique collections. I mean, it doesn't go to a collection agency. It doesn't go to the credit bureaus. Okay. It's just you know, it's a friendly collection agency, I guess, friendly. We just want our stuff back, you know, and we know there's more of a risk with the students. I mean, we made a lot of exceptions during COVID for our hotspots and things like that. And yeah, I mean, we lost some things, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're trying to evaluate, like, well, what are we here for? And the amount that we lose is not very much compared to how much we loan out and what comes back to us. And I think it's, you know, it's worth the risk. And we know, and Dr. Shelton knows, that it'll be revisited if it becomes an issue for any of the libraries involved.
That's great. I know in some of our smaller libraries, you know, we have some libraries where they're the only library in their entire county. And, you know, it's like, I can see them trying to coordinate some of these things because, you know, there are a lot of children who are unserved out there. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you taking into consideration that, you know, even though some of these kids may have cards, they may never be able to make it to the library to use the cards. So, you know, this is a great way of covering those kids. And I do love all of the collaboration with the other libraries to make this happen. I'm just trying to figure out how people can duplicate this in their communities. So it's like, it's all complicated. It would be nice if we did have universal service and that there was some sort of reimbursement for people, or, you know, but anyway, I do see a few more questions. Do you limit the types of items? For example, is a first grader allowed to check out an adult book for a parent?
Well, I mean, if you read that, well, you didn't get a chance, but that last slide, you know, I put in a paragraph. I sent a paragraph to District 7 and they included it in the letter, asking families to respect the spirit of the agreement. the intention here is to provide access to materials to students of District 7, not to the family members. So we do nothing to enforce that. If you come into the library with a library card, you can check out. I mean, we have a restriction on American Girl dolls, right? You have to have a parent guardian sign because they're worth so much money. And for a hotspot, you need to have a guardian or a parent sign. But no, we do not limit or restrict what type of material they can check out.
Okay. So basically you apply the same rules you would to that you would use to your own patrons for these students as well. Is that correct? Like you said, if they wanted to check out an American Girl doll, they'd have to have a parent sign for that, but they could use their card to do that.
Correct.
Okay. If you would feel more comfortable unmuting your mic and asking questions, that's another option for you, or you can continue asking questions through chat.
It might be helpful. It might be interesting, for Christy Garish to comment on, if she, what has been different than what she expected, or how have things been working for them. Might be interesting to get another perspective.
There's Christy. Hi.
Hi. It's been working out really well for us. We've had quite a few students who have come here to use their cards. Probably the biggest problem that we've had is sometimes they put things on hold with their regular card, and then they're trying to use their district card for other things, or vice versa. So, I mean, it's worked out really well. So we're really happy with the partnership, and Jill did a great job with putting it together.
Yes, the advantage of having a CPA figure out some of these things is remarkable. And I love the spreadsheet, and I'm just so impressed with everything that you guys have done on this one. So, and thank you, Christy. It's nice to hear that this is a success, because that's a lot of kids that are unserved in that area, 22% of the school district. That's huge.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out some of the digital resources, but other than that, it's been great.
Good. Okay, any other questions, comments, thoughts? So if someone does have further questions, or, needs to talk to either of you guys about this whole process, are you willing to answer any questions that they may have? Or
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think you all know that I'm moving out of state, so I'm leaving, but I will be here probably through June. So yeah, any questions you might have, just let us know, and I'll make sure that the next library director of Edwardsville knows how to carry on the torch. So any questions, just let us know.
okay, that sounds great. Okay, well, I will not keep you any longer, Jill. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but and thank you so much for sharing all of the behind the scenes stuff that was involved in this. And I appreciate you sharing the letters that the school district sent out too. So, in case people are trying to form their own intergovernmental agreements with school districts, they can say, well, here's what Edwardsville sent to their people. So it's nice. I think people always appreciate examples of what other people have done. So thank you for sharing all of those things. Okay, and oh, Jill, also I wanted to know if you would share your slide deck with us so I can share that with everyone. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, now we will go into the part where we talk about IHLS, and we will seek updates from our various departments. I'm going to ask Cassandra if she could give us an update for SHARE.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. Can everybody hear me okay? Great, thank you. So we thank you to everyone who's reached out in the last couple of days. We have been out, of course, last week was Reaching Forward South. Thanks to everybody who stopped by the Share, CMC, or IHLS booths to visit with us. We actually had a really great opportunity for this week. We were out at the International Coalition of Library Consortia. And so we were able to talk to some of our colleagues on some of the things that they're doing for vendor relationships, the ownership of metadata. So we got some really great sessions. We had a really great time speaking to some colleagues throughout Illinois, but also across the country. And so again, thank you to everyone who was patient with us as we've been out quite a bit this last couple of weeks. I am so excited to let everyone know that we are moving forward with the Aspen Discovery Layer. We're still working out, fine-tuning some of the details with how that project is going to look. But with that, we do anticipate starting that in July of 2023. So it's going to be our fiscal year 2024, but we are anticipating moving forward with that. And so with that, please be on the lookout for information as we get closer to that date. I'm also sending out annual agreements next week. It will not include the Aspen responsibility, but it will include your regular membership fees. So if anybody has any questions on that, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help navigate that. I do know that Jennifer Baugh has been working on some the barcoder refresher training and other types of trainings. We do have a BIB Standards Committee tomorrow at 10. And then Dina Porter has been working quite a bit on end of the school year. So kind of along this topic for getting schools set up for their summer breaks, making sure all of the closed dates are in here. In the Polaris database. And so that's some of the things that we're working on. I do see Jennifer's name if she has anything that she'd like to add for the cataloging side for Share.
I do not, but thank you, Cassandra.
All right, thanks, Jen. Okay, I also see some other Share members. Is there anything that I missed, or Share staff members? Okay, hearing nothing. If anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to speak up or pop them in the chat, but otherwise I'll let someone else go.
Okay, thank you, Cassandra. That's a lot of information and you guys have been very busy. I don't believe we have anyone from delivery here.
Anna, I'm going to do that.
Okay, you'll do that in the whole wrap up. Okay, I guess the next group of people is marketing and communications. And I thought I saw.
I checked with them. They didn't have anything either.
Oh, okay, so I'm just going to turn this over to Ellen to cover any news from the administration and membership and anybody else. Delivery. Yes, Ellen's got it all. Yeah, okay, Ellen.
I'm wearing way too many hats this morning, so bear with me. On the administrative and membership side, what we're working on in a more focused way right now is getting our operational plan ready to submit to the state library with our area and per capita grant application for FY 2024. So the Policy and Membership Committee has had a chance to look at it for a first reading. The board will look at it next week. It will be eventually up on our website for member comment. And please know we really do appreciate those comments. It's a long document, but if any of you are so inclined to take the time and look through it and add your comments, we read every one of them and we appreciate every one of them. As Cassandra said, we did have a long week last week with Directors U 2.0. We had about 11 people attending that and then Reaching Forward South. So spring has been a time to get out on the road, which is very nice. I'm happy to announce that at our last special board meeting, we did hire a continuing educator a continuing education coordinator who I believe is here today on this call, and that's Kate Kite from 6 Mile Regional Library District. We're going to be thrilled to have Kate joining us, and I believe her start date is going to be right around the 1st of May. So we're looking forward to having Kate join us. In the next couple of days, a job posting for a facilities and delivery director will be posted. So that will be a job opening at IHLS. And we're looking forward to a robust set of applicants for that. Just for a piece of fun information, today is quite the day for networking. Leslie Bednar is traveling to Chicago with Greg McCormick from the Illinois State Library to attend a town hall meeting that was called by Chris Brown, the library commissioner from Chicago Public Libraries, on defending democracy, the role of libraries and civic leadership in the fight against book bans and censorship. This is going to, Alexi Giannoulis, the newly elected Secretary of State, is going to be a presence there, as well as Tracy Hall from the American Library Association. So I'll be anxious when Leslie gets home to hear about what that was all about. And then another group of our colleagues are at the Capitol, probably even as we're speaking, to attend a tea that's been hosted by the Lieutenant Governor. She wanted to do that in celebration of National Library Week, which is upcoming next week. So again, it will be fun to hear what the tea was like and what was discussed, and I don't know what they ate and drank. So that will be something as well. I'm sure if you're following on social media or on ILA's website, you do know that House Bill 2789 passed the Senate yesterday and is going to the Executive Committee. And that I'm going to read the words of the synopsis of the bill. That is the bill that provides that the state librarian shall prescribe rules concerning the development of a written policy declaring the inherent authority of the public library or library system to prohibit the practice of banning specific books or resources. It provides that in order to be eligible for state grants, a public library or library system shall develop a written policy prohibiting the practice of banning books within the public library or library system. And that the adoption of that policy will be tied in to the receipt of state grants. It will still have to go through rule and all that kind of stuff. So I think we'll know more as things are interpreted more finally, but that bill is fast tracked to become law in Illinois. As far as membership goes, we have successfully completed the certification, and a clean list of library members will be presented to our board at either the May or the June meeting. So that's a good thing. And like everything else, it is a good time to get out. So yesterday, Anna and I were both on the road attending networking meetings. Leah's been on the road. It's time to do site visits for new library directors. So we're using this good weather to our advantage as far as meeting with our membership. Any questions for me? You can type them, you can ask, and I can just tell you that from delivery, they wanted me to remind you that staff day is May 4th, so there will be no delivery that day. The last day of school deliveries will be May 19th. And if you need an extended day for that, call your hub manager and we can certainly work something out. And finally, I guess we're introducing some new tubs. So not every library will get brand new tubs right away. But just just watch for them and see how they work. And Leah, do you want to talk about the rapid response team? I see that in the chat.
Sure, hold on. So I'm mentioning this because I know that some of the other organizations that we're partnering with are going to start mentioning this. So I wanted to get it out there. So if you hear about it, we are working with ILA, the Association of Illinois School Library Educators, and RAILS to come up with what we're calling, we don't have a name for it yet, but we're calling it a rapid response team for book challenges and book bans. And this is modeled after the New Jersey Rapid Response Team, so that if a book is challenged or banned in a library or a school, they call or email the hotline, and there's somebody right away that can help them with their next steps. And we're all very excited about this. Now, we're still in the very early stages, but I know that ILA is going to mention it soon, and Rails has told a few people about it. So I wanted our members to know about it too. We're also going to be looking for volunteers who would like to be available to answer one of those calls. So keep that in mind. If you've dealt with a book ban or a challenge and you feel like you would want to help somebody who's in the same boat, we will be looking for people who have that experience, who can, and we're basically looking for people who can do anything from take a phone call and direct them to resources, all the way down to being willing to attend a board meeting on the behalf of a library. So that's exciting, and we're slowly but surely getting there. So
Well, since we have the two other members of the membership team on screen right now, anything else we should add?
I was just going to put out a call for any of the libraries who participated in the intergovernmental agreement with Jill. If you would like to talk about it with school librarians, we are presenting, well, I've made a proposal, it hasn't been accepted yet, but presenting about school/public library partnerships at the ISLE conference in October in Champaign. And you do not have to pay to attend just for the speaking portion. So if you would like to come with me or join us virtually to talk about your experience, please let me know. We would be glad to have you, because we're trying to promote those partnerships.
Great.
Anna, anything to add?
I just, my life these days seems to revolve around well, I'm hoping it's getting closer to fruition, and we'll have things to show fairly soon, the trustee grant. So yes, lots of good things happening there. I'm very excited about our progress, and we hope to involve more people as we roll different steps of the project out. I know that we will probably have some things to share in August, and I'm hoping to get everyone's brand new trustees, people who were just elected to the office, to be our guinea pigs and try out the first module at that time. So if you want to go ahead and send me the names of new trustees, I will keep a list, and when our modules are ready, I will reach back out and we will ask them to take, the training, or, at least look at it and get their feedback. We also have an advisory committee and a feedback committee that we are working with currently, and they've been giving us lots of great input as well. So thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Anna. And we have two good things in the chat. Ashley Stewart reminded us to all vote for in the ILA upcoming elections. I think the elections close at the end of the month, so we have a little bit longer for an open window to get that done. It is important that we all vote. And I also have to say, seeing Ashley's name and seeing Betsy's name at Directors U 2.0 and at Reaching Forward South, I was so happy to see so many of our members presenting. Hats off to all of you who did something. It was really heartwarming to see that. And Betsy posted that Matt Mitkowski will be discussing the Rapid Response Network at the ILA Noon Network next Monday. So there's the link if you want to copy it and find out more about the Rapid Response Team.
Okay.
That's it from me, Anna.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add? Would you like to talk about anything that's happening at your libraries? Again, you can unmute yourself and join the conversation that way, or you can post in the chat. I'll give everyone a few minutes to consider what they are doing, what they'd like to share. I know I really enjoyed the presentation today. I'm happy for Jill that she's moving on to an exciting new phase in her life and going to Los Angeles, but I'm sorry that she'll be leaving IHLS in Edwardsville. That'll be tough. Okay, getting ready for summer reading. Julie, this is your first summer, huh? Okay, well, this is exciting stuff. Summer reading is always a lot of fun and always a lot of craziness and mayhem as well, but it's good fun and good chaos, so. Okay. Yes, what library are you with, Julie? We should know, but oh, Shawneetown. Okay, great. I hope to come and visit you soon. Okay. Anyone else? All right. So yes, we are always here if you have any questions, if you need any help with anything, if you would like to have us come and visit you, if you have an event you would like us to attend, please let us know. Everyone on staff at IHLS is always open to helping our members. So please, feel free to contact us at any time via email or phone. And I thank everyone for taking the time to join us this morning. And I'm going to, let everyone go now. We have a lot of time to enjoy this beautiful day. And again, thank you and have a great day. Bye.